Coming to you live from Anderson, South Carolina. This is the Jaren Sustar Show, where I teach you how to manage your money and build financial freedom through investing in real estate, all while continuing to work your job, raise your family, and while living your busy life. I'm your host, Jaren Sustar, and I want to personally thank you guys for tuning in today. We have a fantastic show, and I'm excited to hang out with y'all today. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube or you're watching live, you can click to download my free ebook. There's a little QR code here in the corner of the live viewing. Or if you are listening to this on podcast, you can go down to the show notes. It's an ebook that's going to show you how to buy your first or next investment property. I honestly, guys, and I'm not just saying this, I know some of this stuff like this gets repeated and, it almost seems hollow. Do people really mean this? I truly think that 2025 is going to be one of the best years for real estate investing that we've had in a decent amount of time. The market's been really stagnant in 2024. The least amount of homes have sold in 2024 since 1995. A lot of people haven't been moving. It's made homes sit longer on the market. Houses are starting to come down in price, and rates are going to start dropping. So there's going to start being more activity, but there is a great time to get into the game with some discounts right now. And that's the way I teach to buy is let's go find ugly properties with a distressed seller, somebody who wants or needs to get rid of their property. Let's get it at a discount. Let's fix the home up, and then let's put it in our portfolio as a rental property, or let's flip it and let's make a profit. 2025 is going to be a fantastic year to do that, and I'm excited to see your guys' success. I know we're going crazy right now. We got 4 flips going on. We're about to make an offer on a 9-unit portfolio full of rentals. And then we are looking to develop a little bit right now as well. We're looking for a piece of land. We got a lead on 15 acres that we may develop and turn into some custom homes. So anyways, I want to encourage you, get in the game. I'm doing what I preach. I'm practicing exactly what I preach, and I want you guys to have success here in 2025 in real estate. So I had a podcast earlier today with the Rich Dad Show, and I had a CPA on, Ryan Bakey. Ryan's a friend of mine, and I had him come on because, quite frankly, I had some questions that I wanted to ask Ryan, and to get some clarification on how does the tax code work for real estate investors. One of the things that we preach with real estate investing is tax benefits, right? So you'll hear me talk about what I call the greatest financial concoction on demand, and that's the 6 pillars that come with real estate investing. So it's leverage, appreciation, forced appreciation, cash flow, tenant pay down, tenants paying off your debt, and then tax benefits. And so I was able to dive in with Ryan with tax benefits. So we talked about a plethora of things. And one of the things that I thought was interesting, I got my notes here, that I did not understand that I wanted to relay to my audience was investing in syndications. So many high income earners, people who make decent income, maybe you don't make a ton of money, but you wanted to invest in real estate and you knew somebody who was running a syndication, or you knew somebody who was managing a real estate fund, and they convinced you to invest with them, or they're trying to convince you, or maybe you've just heard of them before and it's piqued your interest. Like, maybe I don't want to own real estate like in my personal portfolio yet. I can invest with these guys. They'll handle it all. And one of the things Ryan brought up today in our show was let me take a step back. Syndicators pitch that there's tax benefits with investing with a syndication. So if you work a high W-2 job, get paid good. If you buy it in the syndication, then you'll get some tax benefits. Well, what I learned today in the show with Ryan was you don't actually get to write off any income that you make from a W-2 from any losses, quote unquote, you take through the syndication. That's the pitch. We will show losses, and it's going to reduce the amount of income you have coming in. But the losses shown on a syndication do not affect any of the income you have coming into a W-2. So it's a moot point. The only thing that a syndication does is you're going to get tax benefits off the losses from the properties in the syndication itself. And then any other real estate you own, it would help you pay less in those taxes. But I know friends, I have one of my best friends who, him and his wife, very high income earners. She is in medicine and he's in sales, and they do really, really well. We're talking like, 7 figures well. And he went and invested in a syndication because he was under the understanding that he was going to get huge tax benefits, but he doesn't have any other real estate. And so in reality, he's not getting huge tax benefits because it's not offsetting their W-2. Okay. And so there's really not many ways to offset a W-2 income. Now, I'm going to teach you one quickly. And Ryan and I talked about this on the show. I was already aware of this one. If you have a W-2 job, you work and you have a good income, which I really encourage people to do that, because that's going to be, although we pay taxes, the income we have coming in from our jobs is going to allow us to build wealth through real estate. But there's one way to be able to offset that, and that's the loophole that comes with things like a short-term rental. Okay. So you can do this with other residential properties. You can do this with commercial real estate, but it's very accessible for the average person wanting to invest by themselves. They don't want to raise, $1 million to go buy a $5 million commercial building. You can go buy an Airbnb and you can do what's called bonus depreciation. So usually with a property, you're going to be able to depreciate it, okay, over 27 and a half years, right? So you're going to be able to essentially write off isn't the right word, but say the property's going down in value, get tax benefits over the course of 27 and a half years. That's the usual timeline for residential property. For commercial, I believe it's 39 years. Well, when you buy an Airbnb, there's a loophole that allows you to do bonus appreciation. So instead of depreciating the asset or the value of that asset over 27 and a half years, you can do around 30% of that asset year one. And then you can depreciate the remaining 70% over the course of the next 26 and a half years. But that 30% bonus depreciation that you're able to do year one reduces your tax liability oftentimes. Then a lot of times, from investors I've talked to, will give you your capital back that you put in for a down payment. Now, maybe not all of it, but because of the tax liabilities reduced, you tend to get money back at taxes. And it a lot of times it's very close, 70 to 80% of the amount that you put in as a down payment to buy that Airbnb. You guys tracking with me? And so when they wrote this law, I think Ryan said in 1993 or so, it was more for like a boutique hotel or a resort style place. This was way before Verbo and Airbnb. So they weren't expecting the average person to be able to take advantage of this. Well, now we all can through Airbnb. So that's why I would say, as a high income earner, talk to an accountant, get a CPA on your side, but it may be advantageous for you to take advantage of bonus depreciation, whether it's through Airbnb or if you're already into real estate and you're doing commercial deals. It really can reduce the tax liability if you have income coming in elsewhere from a W-2 job. Okay. Because, the cream of the crop, the way you get the most tax benefits in the real estate world is to be a real estate professional. But to be a real estate professional, you can't work a W-2 job. You got to be in real estate essentially full time. They want you to do 15 hours per week, and most of them want you to manage your own properties, because if a property manager's managing, then they think that they're doing the majority of the work. Okay. And there's some ways to get around that, but that's usually what it's going to fall under. And many of us, we don't have the time to do it. We don't want to do real estate full time, and so we're not going to be there. We're not going to be there anytime soon. Maybe later in life we'll take on that. And so I think it's important for us to do as many things as we can to reduce our tax liability, such as the bonus depreciation, or when we're upgrading properties, doing things like 1031 exchanges. Okay. And so we just have to understand what assets offer what benefits. Do I love people only buying Airbnbs? No, I don't, because I think there's a huge opportunity in the long-term rental space, especially in the next 3 to 5 years. And I also think there's opportunity to flip properties, which when you flip properties, you're going to pay capital gains taxes. It is what it is. You're going to have to pay Uncle Sam his money on your capital gains that you make from flips. It's just the way the world goes. But you can increase your income substantially to then go and allow yourself to buy other products. So I love other asset classes than just short-term rentals, but it's almost like this little, carrot that's dangling, but the carrot actually is good. It's not one that keeps running away from you like most of them. This is something that we need to take advantage of. And so I wanted to throw that out there for you guys, so that you can take advantage of that if you fall into that category. Not everybody will, but there's a lot of you who will, like myself, and you can go take advantage of it. I was also talking to Ryan. I'm pretty much going to recap what me and him talked about, and then I got some good stuff coming here in a second with some questions I got asked earlier. But I was asking Ryan from, like, what are the biggest things he sees from a CPA's viewpoint that hurt people financially, that hurt people in the real estate investing world. Okay. And he said 3 different things. You got taxes, number one, you've got inflation, and you've got indecision. He said from his viewpoint, being a CPA. Those are the three biggest things that affect people with their finances and hold them back from being well. So we all know number one is that we're paying too much in taxes. Now, when you're just starting out building wealth, the goal is to make as much money as possible. I talked to a kid, he's 22 years old, and he made $90,000 last year, which is really, really good at 22 years old. But all he kept talking to me about was, how do I save in taxes? I need to save in taxes. I need to go buy a truck. I need to do this. And I'm like, bro, you're making $90,000. Let's not use our energy to figure out how we're going to save taxes, but instead let's use our energy to go bump that up to $900,000, right? And obviously that's a huge jump. Let's make 150 this year and 200 and then three. Let's increase your income. Stop worrying about taxes if you're making less than, you know, two, three, four, $500,000 per year. You need to worry about making more money. But then once we do have more money coming in, then we need to reduce that tax liability, right? Because that's one of the things that hurt us and steals money from us. The government robs us of our capital through taxes, and there's ways to limit that. Number two is inflation. So many people will save. Think about the middle class. They're taught to save, save, save. I mean, me, all growing up, everybody said, you got to save your money now, save your money so you can go buy what you want to buy. Well, what you don't get told is inflation is growing, and it's growing rapidly right now, but it's going to always continue to grow here in our country, in the United States. What happens to the value of the dollar as inflation grows? It drops significantly. So if you have $75,000 saved, in a few years, the purchasing power that's going to be about worth $60,000. And so you're literally losing the purchasing power through those dollars that you're having saved. We have to get out of that mindset of, let me save money, because it's going to make you literally go broke. The caveat to that is, I think everybody should have a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. Keep that sitting there, as cash is king for the rainy day. Outside of that, let's go invest, because what assets do, things such as real estate, is they hedge against inflation. So when the value of the dollar is declining and inflation is going up, real assets hedge against that inflation and intend to increase with it. And so the only way to store your wealth in a safe way to where you can then access that wealth and it's kept up with the cost of life is through owning assets. Why do you think the wealthy don't get as concerned when inflation happens? Because our assets are growing. Now, I love slow periods in the economy where we're having everything's starting to slow back down, and deals aren't flying off the market, money's not being printed, and the market's not as stimulated, because I can go buy things. But then once I've bought them, when we have those huge inflationary periods where everything's going up in value, that's where I get even wealthier. And that's what the rich do. And so we have to be able to put ourselves in that position. And then indecision is the third. And I see this all the time. The, the opportunity cost is a real thing. And so we have to look and say, every time I did or did not make a decision to do something, what did that cost me? If you, for example, I started investing in 2018. What if I would have listened to all the middle class naysayers who said, right now is not a good time to invest, when they said that in 2018 and 2019 and 2020 and 21, and I would have had indecision and I would not have purchased real estate? What would be my opportunity cost today? Well, we're worth millions today. So I would say that those decisions or indecisions that I could have made back in 2018 would have cost me millions of dollars, financial freedom, being able to choose what my days look like every day. There is a cost that is usually greater to inaction than action. You hear me? I'm going to say that again. The cost of inaction is usually greater than the cost of actually taking action. There's so much risk and fear behind doing new things, by discovering the unknown. And that's okay. But that's where we have to look and say, what are other people doing? What has this thing done statistically over the long term? And we have to go from operating out of emotion to looking at logic and saying, okay, based on data, what are my chances of this being good for me? Right. And when we look at something like real estate, and we should do this in all areas of life, but I'm specifically talking about real estate. When we look at real estate, you've got to look and you've got to say, well, this has been making people wealthy since the beginning of time. If you look at a graph of real estate, it goes up. Right. And that helps us remove that fear, because I'll tell you, one of the hardest parts of real estate investing is getting over that initial fear. Once you break through that and you get to the other side of the fear, then learning how to do it, guys, learning how to do anything. And I don't want to be too flippant here, but learning how to do anything is just a process of putting yourself around people who have already done it. They make it normal for you, and then learning the actual steps to do it. That's the easy part. We coach hundreds upon hundreds of people, and I tell them the hardest part for you is your limiting beliefs. I say, you're going to come in here, we're going to teach you how to buy real estate. That's the easy part. The hard part is limiting beliefs. And that's where a community is so important, and surrounding yourself with people who have already done it. I'll tell you, the reason I've had success in real estate, the number one reason I've had success in real estate is because when I started, I was surrounded by people who made real estate normal. I was in a circle to where it became this tangible topic. It almost seemed mythical, mystical, or not mystical. That's not the right word. It seemed mythical, not real before I did it, right? Before I was around those people, because just growing up, it's like real estate's for rich people. I'm not rich. But then I started hanging out with people that it was what they did every day. And it was just what they talked about. And it was what they did. And you're like, holy crap. Well, that's normal. It becomes normal. And I sincerely mean that. And so I think it's so important to put yourself in that environment. That's why, with our rental academy, that's why I created it, is to give people a place. Like, we teach and coach and guide and analyze all the deals and help people with rehab, all that stuff. And it's great. And we'll make sure that people do it all the right way. But probably the biggest thing that we offer is a community for people to come into, to be able to feel like, oh, this is normal. Not in my daily life with people I'm currently surrounded with in my hometown, it's not. But man, I walk into this world with Jaren and his people. That's just what they do. It's what they talk about. People are posting doing deals all the time. And when you enter that world, it makes it a lot easier. And so that's going to help you with indecision, because between taxes, inflation, and indecision, it can absolutely destroy your investing career. So I had a couple questions come through this week that I wanted to address. We get lots of questions, and some of them are annoying for me to answer because I've answered the same one a million times. Other ones I enjoy expounding upon and talking about. And one of them that I got this week was, hey, Jaren, what is the best real estate asset to invest in? And they said, parentheses, homes, apartments, storage, etc. So I have to be completely honest and say you can make money in all of them. So you can do very, very well in all of them. I think the goal in your focus should be pick one and become an expert at it. I love single family homes. When I coach people, at least to start out, I push them to single family homes. Why? Well, there's a number of reasons. Okay. Number one is they're very plentiful. Okay. So what does that mean? Well, it means it's easy to get loans for them. Banks are used to loaning for single family homes, right? How many loans do banks do every day for single family homes? So it's easy to get funding for them. Number two, it's easy to figure out what they're worth. So when you are analyzing a single family home, we are looking and seeing what comparable homes around it have sold for, and that's going to tell us what our home is going to be worth. And so you can really look it up very quickly and say, okay, I'm looking at a 3-bed, 2-bath, 2,000 square foot. Let me just go find one that sold in the last 6 months, maybe to a year, in the surrounding area. And that'll give me a pretty good idea of what this is worth, right? If we want to figure out what a 100-unit apartment complex is worth, there's a lot more intricacies that go into it. It's what's the income, what's the NOI. They may try to find another one that has sold. So it's not as black and white. And you can learn that. It's like I told you earlier, you can go in and learn anything, but the accessibility for the single family home, especially for people who are newer in their journey, is ridiculously easy. And then when you look at tenants, think about the person who wants to live in an apartment complex versus who wants to live in a home. You're generally going to get a better tenant. They want a nice, stable place to stay. And I say tenants come in and they want to make your house their home. And then when we look at the exit strategy, all right, so they're easy to find, they're easy to analyze, they're easy to get funding for. You get good tenants, and then let's say the day comes where you want to sell it. If you want to sell an apartment complex, or if you want to sell a storage unit, or you want to sell a warehouse, who can you sell that to? Another investor. So your pool is limited, correct? If you want to sell a single family home, who can you sell that single family home to? You can sell it to another investor, just like you would do with the warehouses, the apartment complex, or storage unit. But you also can sell it to the entire general population. What is the American dream? The American dream is to own your own home. And so, if we as an investor focus on single family, buy ugly homes that the average person can't buy because they can't even get financing for, then we fix it up and we sell it on the market, we can literally allow somebody to live out the American dream and purchase our home. And there are tons of people want to do it daily, or there's millions of people who need a place to rent because of their financial position. They are not able to buy right now. They don't have the cash for a down payment. They don't have the credit that they need to get a loan. And so we can make nice quality housing, and then we can supply that for the masses. You know, people try to give investors a bad rap as a blanket statement. There are bad people out there. There are bad investors. There's bad everything. No matter what industry, investment, non-investment, W-2, small business, guess what, guys? There's just bad people on planet Earth, right? Adam and Eve really screwed it up for us in the garden that day. And now we just got a lot of evil that sits here. And so, yes, are there bad investors? 100%. Dude, there's terrible landlords who don't take care of their tenants. They do them wrong. They don't supply for them. But then there's really good people who do it for the right reason, who I go around and I find homes that are run down in my community. I get a hold of the person and I try to buy it from them, and then I'll fix it up and I'll make it nice. And so now our community's being uplifted through the work we're doing. And then we offer fair market rents to people who can't buy yet, give them quality, great housing that they get to live in with their family without having to come up with all this capital. Or if we sell it to somebody and we flip it instead of keeping it as a rental, we're making these nice homes, raising the value of our community, giving somebody their American dream of buying a home. Okay. And so this whole blanket of, nobody should be able to buy houses for investment. Well, what do you want these vacant homes to do? What do you want these rundown homes to do? You want the government to take control of these? Have you guys ever seen government housing? Have you guys ever seen anything the government does? It's awful. And so stop whining and complaining about investors buying single family homes and worry that one day the government would own these homes. You hadn't seen disaster till they start owning all the properties. And I'm serious. If you don't believe me, go ride through government subsidized homes. Go ride around in them. See how good they're kept up. That's why capitalism is a beautiful experiment. Are there downsides? Of course. There's some beautiful things that come with things like capitalism and letting the free market have its way. And when you get good people who care about their community, who care about helping people, you can do a lot of great things. Guys, real quick, if you hadn't downloaded the ebook, if you're watching live or you're watching on YouTube, you can scan the QR code, download the ebook, How to Buy Your First Investment Property or Your Next Investment Property. And 2025 is going to be a fantastic year. So make sure you download that. It's completely free. And it's going to give you the step-by-step guide that I used to build our multi-million-dollar portfolio. So question number 2. I love this one. Should I quit my job to go into real estate full time? Well, let me ask you this. Number one, do you like your job? There's this movement going on in the social media world and just in the world in general that escaping the rat race means leaving your job. Okay. I argue that it doesn't necessarily mean that. I think escaping the rat race means buying enough assets to where they cover your liabilities to where you can choose to do what you want to do. It isn't to where you just don't do anything. Right? We're not just going to not do anything. We were made to work. But the goal of financial freedom is to be able to choose what you want to do for work. So guess what? If you like your job, keep doing your job. I've been doing the same job for almost a decade. Why? Because I love it. I love the people. There's nothing wrong with working. And guess what? If you don't love your job, you know what you should do? Go get another one. You know what would happen if you left your job and went to real estate full time? Real estate investing would then what? Become your job. Now, let me tell you a little bit about what real estate investing looks like as a full-time job. You need to be able to send out mailers, pay for marketing for mailers. You need to be able to drive around, call it 5 hours per week looking for rundown properties, you need to be ready to cold call anywhere from 20 to 30 hours per week. Then you need to be able to feel comfortable going to people's houses who live there, walking their house, taking pictures, having conversations, knowing how to negotiate, and then standing there and making them a low ball offer because that's what you need to make a profit, and explaining that to them and handling their reaction and then negotiating after you get that reaction. And then them not ready to give you an answer that day. So then you're going to put them in a CRM and you're going to do follow up, and you're going to get creative and strategic how you follow up because you can't get them to get a hold of you, but they hadn't sold it yet. So then you got to figure out ways to get a hold of them so you can land this deal. Because if you don't land this deal, you don't have money coming in, because the only way you make money when you're on your own business doing real estate is by having a certain number of deals coming in. And so doing real estate full time isn't quite as glorious as having a W-2 where you've got that steady income coming in, and then we deploy that money to then buy real estate. So if all that stuff sounds fun to you, for some of y'all, it will. If you're in sales right now, you would love it. I absolutely love it. I love going on calls where I look at homes and I make offers and I negotiate with the sellers. I love it. I absolutely love it. But a lot of people don't, and you don't have to do that. Right? What's another passion you have that you can get paid to do? And then let's take that income from that job, that passion, and deploy it into real estate deals. And we don't have to do real estate full time, and it can still make you financially free without having to do it full time. I have never done real estate full time, ever, not ever. Okay. And it has completely changed our lives. But you guys understand that. I don't manage any of my properties. I probably spend 20 minutes a week on my existing portfolio. That's probably high, but answering emails from my property management if they reach out. I don't manage any of my properties. I don't cold call 20, 30 hours a week. I do targeted mailers to houses that I'm interested in. I'll drive around, call the owner, go meet with them, look at properties on Zillow, have wholesalers bring me properties, and then have people in the community bring me properties. And it's worked just A-OK for us. Right? You can land big deals. If you're like, I want to land big multifamily or storage deals, great. You can do that. You don't have to work full time. All right. So be careful what you wish for. The grass isn't always greener. This is a great asset to invest in without having to dive in full time. And I would tell you, if you got a good gig, if you got a good job, then continue to do that and use that money. You're going to be very loanable. It's going to be easy to get loans for real estate. You're going to have that safety net while you're building financial freedom over here. If you're broke and you're not making any money, you don't have a job, you want to try your hand at real estate, go right ahead. But if you're doing well, I would encourage you, stay put and, make the money you're making and just invest it into real estate. Question number 3. Our team put the wrong question. I'm trying to remember what it was. We doubled the question from number 1 on my software. And I cannot remember for the life of me, and I don't think I have it written down what question number 3 was. So I'm sorry. I'll have to bring question number 3 to you guys next week. Man, what did that person ask me? Let's see. Let's see if I can pull it up on my app here. Here we go. There it is. Aha! I found it. Nice. Let's see if I can get this to pull up here. Okay. Told you I'm going to get this software at some point. Question. My spouse, I knew it was a juicy one, isn't on board with investing. He is conservative. All right. This is a tough place to be when you have one spouse who wants to invest and the other one who is just hell-bent on not allowing that to happen. A lot of times the person who doesn't want it to happen can be very stubborn. Anybody relate? Right? I don't have that. Luckily, my wife is amazing. So I'm not over here saying I can relate, but I know that there's some of you that can relate. And number one, I'd encourage you that you and your spouse need to fight in a good way. Not y'all actually fight. That did not come out right. But y'all need to strive to be on the same page in every area of life. And that's going to take communication. And that's going to take listening to each other, respecting each other, understanding what each person wants and why. So so often it's easy to shut down the other person because you just don't want any part of what they're talking about. And I don't think that's fair to them. I think it's fair to hear them out. One of the things that we did, my wife and I, early on when we got married was, and I did it, and I don't even know if it was strategic at the time, but it ended up working out, is I inundated her with financial and real estate content. So anytime we drove down the road, we were listening to a podcast, either a Dave Ramsey podcast, learning how to get out of debt, a Robert Kiyosaki podcast on how to buy real estate, bigger podcast, all different types of podcasts. And I was just turning it on so that she was hearing it. She was hearing other people's stories. They were able to tell, they were making it real by listening to what other people were going through. And so often it's hard to get people close to us to listen to us when we give them advice on what we think they should do. And I think that's just normal. And so what's the Bible verse? A prophet is not without honor, but in his hometown. Like it's very common for those close to us not to necessarily think we know what we're talking about. And that's okay. So it's not really okay, but we got to deal with it. And so I think it's important to inundate them with content of what you're trying to accomplish. And then how can you in person get them around people who are doing what you want to do? So whether you know somebody in your network who's doing real estate, y'all have a friend, y'all have family members, whatever, getting around that person, hearing their stories, or going to a real estate meetup locally. If you go to your local real estate investing association to where you live, close to where you live, they're going to have a monthly meetup, or maybe more than that, and there's going to be all these in-person events going on. Work hard to get your spouse there. Be very kind about it. Hey, I just want to go learn a little bit more. I understand you're not ready to do this right now. I just want to learn a little bit more about real estate, or whatever the case may be. Take them there with you and just be patient. That would be my biggest advice, is be patient with them. They, for whatever reason, have a limiting belief. A lot of times it's how they were raised, right? And so they were brought up to think a certain way, or they've heard a bad story of something that happened to someone, or we lived through a great recession in real estate of people who over leveraged themselves in 08 and 09 and they got burned. And so then a lot of people were scared of real estate because they know somebody that got burned because of their bad lending decisions. And so we have to be patient. We have to be kind with our significant other and let them go through the journey of knocking down those limiting beliefs. And you shoving them down their throat isn't going to work. You yelling at them, you getting frustrated about it, it's not going to make them change. Instead, doing it methodically and letting them hear stories of other people who have done it is going to lead them to that place to where they'll be on board. Look, it's positive to have a conservative spouse. They can protect you from a lot of things. But the market, okay, to build wealth, the market does not reward ultra conservatism, and the market does not reward ultra risk. Okay. People get burned on both. Ultra conservative never have any gains, never can reach financial freedom because they're scared to invest at all. And then the greedy over here who are ultra risky get burned by the market all the time. We've got to be in the middle. We have got to understand that assets have to be purchased to build wealth, but we have to respect those assets along the way. If not, then we'll absolutely get destroyed. And so if we can meet in that middle ground of like, okay, understand you're scared, understand you're nervous, that's okay. But we've got to get you to this center ground to say, we're going to be cautionary, but we're going to take the calculated risks that are going to lead us to where we want to go. And if you do that, and especially if you do that as a team, husband and spouse on the same team is an unstoppable combo. And, there's a podcast episode on my YouTube. It's like the first video on my YouTube channel. I think if you go to youtube.com/@Jaren Sustar, it should take you there. If not, just type my name in the search bar. Go to my personal YouTube page, and my wife and I did a video on our journey. And I would encourage anybody who, if you're just unsure about real estate, or your spouse is unsure, listen to that video with your spouse. It's me and my wife just talking about our journey and our thought process and how because I'm the one who was pushing. She's the one who was more detached from it. So it's really cool to not only hear my perspective and how I remember our journey, but all the things that she remembered and how she processed and how she trusted me and how she encouraged me along the way. Cause it's not easy. We've been on this journey for a decade now. And having her in my corner, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for my wife supporting me and trusting and encouraging and helping. And so it's very important that you guys get on the same page. Hey, I want to thank y'all for tuning in today. Again, if you haven't already, download my free ebook. If you're watching live or on YouTube, you can scan the QR code here at the top of the screen, Or if you're not, if you're listening on podcast, we'll put it in the show notes. And I want to ask a favor of everybody. If you are listening to this on a podcast channel, would you leave me 5 stars and then write a review? It helps the show get pushed to others. And the same thing on YouTube. If you will like and share this, it helps spread the news to other people. And that's our goal, is to help as many people as possible take control of their finances and grow their wealth through real estate. Thank you guys so much for hanging out, and I will see